Good day and welcome. This is the Disability Law Show. So glad you're going to stick with us. Hopefully for the entire 30 minutes. John Scholes here beside me, Sivan Tumarkin working remotely on these pandemic times. That's what they've been known to, or at least been called anyway. It doesn't matter. You can still reach out and talk to us anytime. The number, 1-855-821-5900, help@disabilityrights.ca. That's the email address. If you shorten that just down to disabilityrights.ca, the firm website. While you're there, you can find a radio show across the country that takes our show for an hour, and we talk about similar things in that format as well, whether it's Ontario or BC or Alberta. Would love to have you chiming in on the radio show anytime as well. And then finally, I know we got lots to get to, but I'll give you one more website as we trickle through the half hour. MyDisabilityQuestions.com. What's that for? That is for you to ask questions for Sivan and his team. There's a searchable database, so your question, someone similar, likely worded the same, has been asked in the past there. You can search it. And if it has, it'll save you some time. If not, leave your question there and it will be answered by Sivan's team really quickly. So again, mydisabilityquestions.com. Sivan, today we're going to talk about 3 things to ask your potential disability lawyer before you hire them. So I would imagine you would have some expertise in this. But first, we always get to the week that was, pal. What do you got going on this week?
John, again, very, very busy time, and busy because, again, of the COVID issues that we're still facing, the variant, the lockdowns, everything, working remotely as we're doing right now. This is something that we're seeing across the board, this additional stress that is translating into anxiety and depression, PTSD, and everything else that's psychological that insurance companies traditionally simply ignore and do not want to deal with. But people have to deal with, real people, and doctors have to deal with. So let me tell you about this one phone call I received. This is a gentleman who is an office manager. He is located in Edmonton. We have offices in Alberta, BC, and Ontario where we help people. So this person from Edmonton unfortunately suffers from severe anxiety, severe depression, and he has a psychologist that is treating him, and he's been on long-term disability now for almost 2 years. And that's relevant because recently the psychologist has provided an updated report to the insurance company, to the long-term disability insurance company that's paying this gentleman benefits, monthly benefits. And in that report, the psychologist reiterated this person still suffers from anxiety and depression in a severe way, cannot work. However, that he has recently had some improvement, and not just improvement, but that he's been better in the mornings, he's been able to exercise more, he's feeling more upbeat. But still, he's not out of the woods. And the psychologist has made recommendations for further treatments and concluded by saying that this person may be a candidate for a potential return to work program at some point in the future. So this report goes into the hands of the insurance company, the adjuster, and the adjuster, in a typical way, cherry picks from that report and says, oh, the psychologist says this person's feeling better. Oh, they're saying that maybe in the foreseeable future he can go back to work or try a return to work program. In other words, completely missing the point of what the psychologist was trying to convey here, which is that this gentleman is on an upwards trajectory, but is still not able to go back to work. However, there is progress that's being made. The adjuster doesn't take that from the report. Instead, what the adjuster says, we are going to start a return to work program come January. And by the way, your 2-year mark is in mid-February. And so as far as we're concerned, at that point, we will end your benefits and you're going to have to go back to work. That's that. Well, that's not what the psychologist was saying. And in fact, after he called me, I told him, get a note from your psychologist to clarify, if in fact that's the case, that you're not going to be ready to start a return to work program in January or even February. Again, if the psychologist believes that to be the case. He did that. Do you think, John, that the adjuster responded in any way? No, he did not. The adjuster simply said, no, based on the first report, which, by the way, was an incorrect reading of that report, we are going to do what we said. We are going to make sure you start the return to work program in January, and by mid-February, your benefits will end. It's the 2-year mark. I told this person straight out, if your psychologist says you're not ready to go back, if your psychologist says you're not ready to start the return to work program, well, then the insurance company cannot end your benefits. It's that simple. And if they're saying that they will, well, they're in breach of your policy. You now have a legal claim, a legal right you can enforce against the insurance company. So we talked about strategies and what to do with everything. I may even write the adjuster myself. But my point is this. If you're in a situation where you feel that the insurance company is not acting correctly again, with respect to your claim. If you feel that they're forcing you to go back to work, if you're feeling that they're cutting you off unjustly, unnecessarily, if they're reading something into whatever your doctors are saying that is incorrect and that's prejudicing your claim, you have to reach out to us. If you don't, you will not get the information you need in order to understand what your rights are. And that's the first process. That's the first step of empowering someone, John, to make sure that individuals out there understand that they have all this power that they can exercise, that the insurance company cannot do whatever they want to do. And this is key. Insurance companies are not omnipotent. They cannot do whatever they want. They're not above the law. We are here to provide this information free of charge. And this is what we did, what I did with this gentleman here. And my team, again, across Ontario, BC, and Alberta, this is what we do. We give this information out for free, and we talk to people about their rights.
Again, that phone number in between here, 1-855-821-5900, help@disabilityrights.ca. You know, it's interesting too, Sivan, because you mentioned over the last year and a half, almost 2 years of the pandemic, the rise. There's always going to be physical injuries and people off on physical disabilities dealing with an insurance company, but the rise in mental disability has really come to the fore. I know you're dealing with it because it's nothing that shows up generally on a CT scan or an X-ray or an MRI. So it can be a dicey situation, and it can be very troublesome. Someone off on a mental disability, they've got their doctor's approval, but the insurance company doesn't always see it that way, right? That could be a lot of a problem.
You know, a lot of times, John, they do see it, but they ignore it. And the reality is that, especially with COVID, everyone is in a pressure cooker. Whether it's adults or kids, everyone in between, and insurance companies are going to have to carry their weight. They've been collecting premiums for these disability policies from employers and individuals for years, for decades. And now, when it comes time to honor these policies, when a person is legitimately unable to work, and the doctors confirm that they're unable to work, it is simply wrong what they're doing. And they need to be held to account. And if government's not going to do that, you as the person who's entitled to that money needs to stand up for your rights. And this is what we do. We help you. And you're right, John, psychological claims, it's very different. You know, if you have a broken back, you can see it on an MRI. You can see it on an X-ray. There is, imaging that we can do. You can't do that if somebody is depressed. You can't. So you get the treatments you can get. Maybe you get medications, maybe you do other things. But the point is that if you have people treating you, and those individuals who are treating you, doctors, psychologists, psychotherapists, if they are on your side and they have your best interest at heart, and they write to the insurance company, telling the insurance company, this person cannot work for at this point in time, let's say, not forever, but at this point in time because of X and Y, and the insurance company doesn't listen, and they deny the claim, or they say that there's just no objective medical documentation to back up that claim, that is garbage, and we can go after them, and we can force them to pay you what you're owed.
Your partner and good friend Lior Samfiru, of course, does the employment side, does the employment law show here as well, and the other half of what you guys do at the firm. You guys work hand in hand. You have to a lot of the time because matters overlap. And they built a website, you and Lior rather, built a website a couple of years ago called pocketemploymentlawyer.ca. Featured heavily on that show and the employment law radio show, of course, but there's also a section in there about disability law. Why do you have that in there?
We have that in there because many people who are having issues with their employers also have issues with their long-term disability insurance companies, and vice versa. People who are on disability find that they've been terminated from their employment, find that they've been demoted, find all kinds of things. And so there is that interplay, you're right, between employment law and disability law, those two areas of focus for our firm, those two areas of specialty. And so when we created the Pocket Employment Lawyer, predominantly deals with giving people accurate answers anonymously and quickly on the web with respect to their employment issues. But we found that people also want answers to their long-term disability questions. And so if you go to that website, you will find that you can get accurate, quick, and anonymous answers to your long-term disability questions. And what's important to understand is that, we don't track you with our website. We have no idea who you are. If after getting the answers that you get on that website, you want to get in touch with us, you click a button that says contact us, and that's it. If you don't, you close your browser, we will not know that you were there, we will not be able to contact you, etc. But at least this way you'll get some accurate answers. And many people, John, it's been used thousands and thousands of times across Canada, and even beyond Canada, to be honest with you. Even though our focus is Canada, it's Canadian law, this is such a unique tool that many people throughout the world have actually looked at it and accessed it.
If your focus still is disability law, there's disabilityrights.ca. That'll take you to the firm webpage. There's a media page there as well, and you can find a radio station across the country that carries our show. We've been doing that for coming up on close to a decade, I guess, for the Disability Law Show, at least 6-7 years. Get a lot of phone calls. People have a lot of questions, so they call in live to the show. We farm some of the good ones. We cherry pick them and play them back on this show, Sivan, and we talk about them because it's key information and people need to know. So we'll get to the first question from the radio show here on the TV show right now.
I've been on long-term disability with the insurance company through my work. They just sent me an envelope with a bunch of paperwork my doctor's got to fill out, and I got to fill out whatever. And I'm just wondering if I should worry about a lawyer or wait till if I get denied, then get a lawyer.
First of all, how old are you right now?
Just turned 57 today.
So that's an excellent question, John, because people often ask, when should I contact you? And we tell people whenever you feel that there's a problem. And even if you're unsure about something, contact us. We may tell you that there is no problem and go ahead and provide this or do that. You know, the reality is there are no stupid questions. There just aren't. If you feel uncomfortable even with filling out an LTD application, to be honest with you, then we will speak with you and we'll give you information about that. And we'll tell you, here's what you need to do. So, you know, this gentleman here obviously wants to be proactive. He wants to make sure that he doesn't make any mistakes. I understand that. At the end of the day, if you are legitimately disabled from working because of an illness or an injury or a combination of both, and you have doctors or someone who's treating you, who's explaining in writing why it is that you should be off work, the insurance company should pay you, assuming you have LTD coverage and you are disabled and you got that medical proof, that's fine. But if you have questions, you give us a call, you email us. If it's not me, it'll be someone else on my team. Trust me, we have a lot of people, and all they're here to do is simply give you information, accurate information, so that you know what your rights are.
Coming up here, what to ask your lawyer before you hire them. I know you're dying to get your teeth into this one, Sivan, but first we'll take a break. And as we go to break, 1-855-821-5900. That's the phone number to reach Sivan and his crew, and help at disabilityrights.ca. We'll continue. This is a Disability Law Show. People think contractors aren't owed severance. EmploymentLawyer.ca says that is a myth. Many contractors are actually employees and are entitled to full severance pay. Always check with the employment lawyer first at EmploymentLawyer.ca. How do you force insurance companies to pay long-term disability claims?
Insurance companies deny legitimate claims all the time. They're playing the odds. They know that most people are just going to walk away.
Your insurer may ignore you. They may even ignore your doctors, but they can't ignore us.
We know how insurance companies work. We know their weaknesses. We know how to use the legal process to force them to pay you what you're owed.
Go to disabilityrights.ca. Discover your rights, fight back, and get what you're owed. People think you are only owed 2 weeks' pay when you lose your job. EmploymentLawyer.ca says that is a myth. You may be owed much more than 2 weeks per year. Don't settle for less. Always check with the employment lawyer first at EmploymentLawyer.ca. Okay, welcome back. Thanks for sticking through the break. We'll continue here. By the way, to reach out to Sivan and his crew anytime. The most positively Googled firm in the country, positively reviewed, rather, disability law firm in the country, 1-855-821-5900. That's the number. And help at disabilityrights.ca. I want to tackle this, Sivan. These are 3 things to ask your disability lawyer before you hire them. I love this first one. Does the insurance company owe me compensation? And if so, how much? First, ask that first.
Yeah, I mean, you need to ask the lawyer, once you explain to the lawyer what your situation is, to give you their own diagnosis of your case. Yeah. You know, when you go to a doctor, your main question to the doctor is, what do I have? I mean, assuming you don't know what it is. But even if you want confirmation, you don't want a doctor to be wishy-washy. You don't want a doctor to sort of play academic. You don't want a doctor to speak over your head. It's the same thing with a lawyer. You want to make sure you have somebody who can understand very fast, very quickly, just, you know, by you providing the necessary information that the lawyer will ask you for, by the way, to give you a diagnosis of your case, to tell you what your case is about, to explain to you exactly where you stand in your case, what your rights are, and then to tell you, here are the potential avenues of compensation. Here's what I think a compensation package would look like. It's no different than when you call one of our employment lawyers after you've been let go from your job, and the employment lawyer, within a matter of a few minutes, in most cases, can tell you, here's what you should be getting. Compare that to what you were offered. And it's the same thing with insurance companies. If somebody's denied a claim, we can do a calculation fairly quickly as to what it is that you should be able to get as compensation from the insurance company. Lawyers who are wishy-washy, there's a problem there. Now, not every case is clear-cut. Some cases are more complex than others. Some cases require us to review the actual policies, the LTD policies, because one of the issues we've talked about before, John, is people who have multiple jobs and are disabled from performing just one job as opposed to the other job or business. So there are issues that come up. But generally, when you go to a lawyer and you feel that that lawyer has a good grasp of the law, of the facts of your case, and how to merge the two to be able to give you a clear picture on what your rights are and what kind of compensation you could be looking at, that's going to instill trust in ordinary folks, I think. Right? That's key. If a lawyer is going to say to you, I have no idea what you should be getting, it depends on this, depends on that, and they give you endless possibilities without giving you some guidance, to me, that's a problem. Maybe they know what they're doing, but they're not able to communicate that correctly. So to me, communication is key, experience is key, and of course, being able to analyze your case correctly is crucial.
And I guess part of that first point or that first question is, there would be no point for a lawyer or a firm like yourself. You're not going to promise somebody the world as compensation if that's really not what's ahead of them, because that does you no good as well. You're going to put a lot of resources and time into a case that's going nowhere. Why would you do that?
I remember, John, a few years back, pre-COVID, when I was in Las Vegas, and I saw a billboard sign, this personal injury law firm there in Nevada, and they claim to have recovered over $3 billion in settlements from insurance companies in car accidents and stuff like that. And I remember, just out of curiosity, going onto their website, just trying to understand, well, $3 billion, I mean, that's a lot of money. It's a lot of settlements. Is this like one of those kind of mass tort situation? And, John Grisham writes about, like, what is that? And I saw that the firm was made up of these 3 young lawyers with a figurehead lawyer who's retired. And those 3 young lawyers, between the 3 of them, had no more than 10 years of experience altogether. I can tell you right now that if they have more than, $10 million worth of settlements, I'll be surprised, let alone billions of dollars of settlements. So to your question, I would be very, very concerned if an individual out there is promising you the moon. Because you have to moderate yourself. When you start a legal claim with an insurance company, there is always some kind of a risk if you end up going all the way and you go to court, which is why most of these cases never go to court. Insurance companies don't want to go to court. I've gone to court when I had to, but that's rare. My goal ultimately, and the goal of every lawyer in my firm, is to maximize the amount of money they can get for you in the shortest amount of time. Now, we have also the experience and we have the reputation of going all the way if we need to, if, of course, our clients want to do that, and if the insurance companies push us to the edge. But at the end of the day, what assessment we give you, it has to bend to reality, and it has to give you the best scenario under the circumstances. But again, it depends on the individual, depends on the insurance company, but you have to be very careful of lawyers out there who promise you the moon, because I can tell you, more instances than not, you end up getting burned. And we end up getting people coming to us for second opinions when lawyers tell them, no, your case is worth $5 million. And I look at their case and, no, your case is probably worth on a good day $200,000. So you have to be careful with the lawyers who are promising you everything, just so that, you can sign on the dotted line.
And that comment kind of dovetails nicely into the second thing you should be asking your disability lawyers. What's your firm's experience with long-term disability claims, not realty law, not family law, not everything else, right?
John, all we do is disability law, disability and injury law, primarily disability, and employment law. That's what we're known for. We're known for that in all the 3 provinces where we practice. And here's the thing. Insurance companies are national in scope. All the insurance companies that our viewers right now, may be thinking about, they're insuring them, whether it's for auto insurance or house insurance or disability insurance, we've dealt with. In fact, I've probably worked for some of them myself in my former life. And many of our lawyers on our teams used to work for insurance companies in the past. In fact, one of our lawyers who joined us a few years back was a very senior lawyer at one of probably the top disability insurance company in the country. And so, of course, as you can imagine, she knows all the secrets and the hidden doors that the insurance company has. And we use the knowledge that we've gained through the years. We use the experience that we have as a team to force down these insurance companies, because these insurance companies ultimately are not interested in a legal battle. Legal battles are very expensive for them. But you have to go to the right lawyers with the right experience, with the sufficient resources to be able to take the fight to the insurance company's doorstep. Okay, it's not a situation of us defending the individual. It's a situation of us going after the insurance company and attacking them and forcing them to come to the table and open up their checkbooks.
We're talking about 3 important things you should be asking your disability lawyer before you hire them. Third one is this: what can I expect to happen once my legal claim is started? Because most people have no idea how it goes.
That's an issue of communication. And I can't tell you how many times, John, people have called me up, and when I've asked them who your lawyer is, in some instances, the lawyers are lawyers I'm not familiar with. They're not really practitioners of disability law. But in other situations, they are lawyers that I'm familiar with, some of which are acquaintances of mine and some of which are friends. And I consider them to be good lawyers. But clearly, there's been a communication breakdown. And you want a lawyer just like you want a doctor, just like you want an accountant, just like you want any other professional that you're dealing with, to speak with you with respect, speak with you plainly, and be responsive. And when you go to a lawyer, whether it's an employment issue, whether it's a disability issue, family issue, whatever it is, you want to make sure the lawyer explains the entire process. And so when a person comes to us who's been denied long-term disability, or has been cut off long-term disability, or is having just issues with their insurance company, we hear them out, we ask the relevant questions to get the relevant facts, and then we provide a diagnosis. We tell them, here's where you stand in the process, here's what's ahead of you, here's what you need to do, here's what you should not do. We go through the whole thing. I mean, this is, again, it's not brain surgery. None of this stuff is overly complex. It's very technical, but it's not overly complex, meaning that if you know what you're doing and you can express that to an individual, a regular, a layperson would be able to understand. Like, this is not rocket science, all right? We're not putting a man on the moon. The insurance company has obligations under the insurance policy to its insured individuals. And the insurance company, if they breach those obligations, if they break the contract, they have to pay for that under the law. It's that simple. It's just a question of explaining that correctly to a person and making sure that we answer all their questions. I never let anyone end a phone conversation, a Zoom call, a Skype call, an email exchange without being comfortable that the person has gotten all their answers. I don't care how long it takes me. I want to make sure people are fully aware of their rights and understand what the next steps are.
That was just 3 things that you should and could ask your lawyer before you hire them. If you have more that come to your mind, make a phone call. Ask Sivan and his crew, 1-855-821-5900. I did mention earlier on the show, the website mydisabilityquestions.com. We're going to get to a question from there. But first, got to take a short break. So we'll do that and return with more. Lots more Disability Law Show is coming right up.
People think you have to sign back a severance offer by a deadline. EmploymentLawyer.ca says that is a myth. Deadlines are used as a pressure tactic. Make sure the offer is fair before you sign. Always check with the employment lawyer first at EmploymentLawyer.ca. Can insurance companies deny long-term disability claims for mental illness?
When you're suffering from a mental health disability, insurance companies just don't understand. But we do.
They can absolutely not force you back to work. If your doctors say you are not ready and you know you're not ready, they cannot make you go back to work.
If you have a mental health disability and your claim is denied, don't give up. Give us a call and let us fight for you.
Go to disabilityrights.ca. Discover your rights, fight back, and get what you're owed. People think you aren't owed severance pay if you are fired for a reason. EmploymentLawyer.ca says that is a myth. Most for-cause terminations are false, and you are still owed full severance. Always check with the employment lawyer first at EmploymentLawyer.ca.
Okay, welcome back. Disability Law Show. Reaching out anytime, 1-855-821-5900. Help at disabilityrights.ca, the email address. And I mentioned another website, free, anonymous, mydisabilityquestions.com. Use that anytime you like. They will be answered by Sivan and his team. Searchable database, so your question may have already been asked and answered in full. But if not, leave it there. Harleen is where we're going, Sivan. She says, I experienced a traumatic incident and ongoing harassment from a colleague at work, which has resulted in PTSD. Despite the support of a psychiatrist and my family doctor, I was denied long-term disability benefits. The insurance company believes my mental illness does not meet the threshold of what they consider to be PTSD. How is that possible?
Well, John, this is interesting because when we're talking about this threshold of what it takes to qualify for long-term disability, we have to examine the denial letters that individuals often receive. And in the denial letter, the insurance company says, under the policy, the provision that governs whether you qualify or not is the provision of total disability. And so what they tell you is, you must be totally disabled in order to qualify for LTD. The problem is that as a layperson, when you hear the word total disability, you think 100% non-functional. You're thinking brain dead, you're thinking comatose, you're thinking something absolutely catastrophic. That is the furthest thing from the truth. Total disability is a term of art created by insurance companies, in my view, to confuse people and to confuse doctors and to confuse psychologists, etc. Why? Because that's not what it means. What it means is that you cannot perform the essential tasks of your own occupation as a result of a disability. Now, if Arlene has a family doctor, a psychiatrist, whoever else she has that's treating her, that is saying that she's unable to work as a result of PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, and so that's the diagnosis, and it's disabling her, guess what? That is sufficient. And it's not me saying. I'm telling you that if I took a case like that to court, not that I would ever have to, because the insurance company would never let that go to court, I can tell you that a judge would most likely agree that the insurance company is wrong. But again, insurance companies deny many, many claims, and they hope that most people like Arlene will walk away from money that is owed to them. Now, I don't know anything about Arlene, but imagine, John, that she's 50 years old, and imagine that she's owed $2,000 a month in LTD. That's $24,000 for the year. Now imagine she has 15 years worth of disability, even 10 years worth of disability. That's $250,000 that they wouldn't otherwise have to pay if she walked away from her legal rights. So again, Arlene, my advice to you is give me a call. I mean, you contacted the show. I want to make sure that we speak after the show because the reality is you have options there. I'm not going to force you to do anything you don't want to do, but I want to make sure you understand that the insurance company cannot get away with simply denying your claim and saying you don't meet the threshold. That is complete baloney. It's nonsense. If your doctors confirm that you are disabled, and they've explained why it is that you are disabled from performing the essential tasks of your own occupation for the first 2 years, beyond 2 years, it's any occupation. It's absolutely key that you do not let the insurance company get away with it.
I'm telling you, we've said this on so many shows over the last few years. It's that total disability. That term it just butts out the entire conversation because nobody thinks, well, I'm not totally disabled. I'm not, bedridden, catatonic. I can feed myself. I can talk. I can brush my teeth. But this says, I'm totally disabled. I'm not totally disabled, so I don't qualify. That throws everybody off.
John, I had a call with a family doctor of one of our clients, and this was about 3 months ago, I think it was, out of BC. And I remember speaking with the doctor, and the doctor is telling me, yeah, but my patient is not totally disabled. And I said, okay, well, the gentleman in question was a mechanic. I said, well, okay, because of his injury, can he stand for prolonged periods of time that's required for a mechanic? No. Can he do this? No. Can he do that? No. Okay. So what you're saying is he cannot perform the essential tasks of his own occupation. Absolutely, I agree with that completely, the doctor says. I said, but that's what's required for the insurance company to pay him. The doctor couldn't believe it. Couldn't believe that that's what total disability means under the policy. So doctors are confused by these kinds of things. That's why I'm telling people, don't simply give up. Don't, walk away from the money that is owed to you, from the obligations the insurance companies has to you without speaking with us. We'll tell you. If you have a case, you have a case. If you don't have a case, you don't have a case. But we will tell you, do not walk away. Give us a call so we can have that conversation for free.
Good for another week. Excellent stuff. Again, reaching out to Sivan now that we are done for this half hour. 1-855-821-5900. That is the phone number. Always help@disabilityrights.ca. And if you want to ask your questions anonymously, mydisabilityquestions.com. Just that simple, mydisabilityquestions.com. We'll catch you next time. Disability Law Show.